Hey, folks. Yes, right. I'm back. It's your man, Adolphus A.D. Moore. High top of NRG Stadium. And guess what? The Texans have shocked the world. In the words of, particularly with that second pick in the first round, the Houston Texans shocked the world, folks. They shocked the world. I expected they were going to get CJ Stroud in the first round. That was to me that was a given. That was a no-brainer. But when they came back and drafted up to the second round, I mean, from the 12th pick to the third pick back to back, the Texans. I mean, they basically Nick Casario did a rope a dope. Of course, as he explained in his presser just about 40 minutes ago, that they had already started laying out preliminaries and plans and so forth. But just to show you just to give you the quick taste of the reaction when the CJ Stroud was announced to the audience out at the stadium. Yep, that was the euphoria at Miller Outdoors Theater when the Texans announced the selection of CJ Stroud. Now, as much as stupendous as that ovation and that the reaction from the crowd, we looked up and I mean everybody was sort of and I had sort of got distracted looking around at the crowd and getting recording the reaction, and before we know it, looking up on the screen, Texans on the clock again, and we weren't like, what the? Yeah, I mean, a few other things would probably say before we know it, and then before we know it, next thing you know, the Texans is already back up on the clock. The third pick from Alabama, Will Anderson, and the crowd erupted. That was well, I guess when you sort of if you had to sort of on a what they measure earthquakes on, that was on the seismic scale. That was probably about a 6 or 7. When the third pick and the crowd start rumbling and start just it was an emotion. It's almost like a tsunami of just euphoria went over the whole Miller Outdoor Theater when the Texans card went up there and they announced that they had Will Anderson, and the Texans went back to back 2 and 3. They got the quarterback that I think they needed, and they got the edge rusher. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. And I'm gonna tell you something, folks. I was shocked. I think everybody else was shocked. But we're going to in a few seconds, a few minutes, we're going to let Nick Casario sort of give you the breakdown on what happened, because he said this was sort of had been in the works. If they had an opportunity, they went through the different scenarios and so forth as to if we have an opportunity and a chance to get the move back up in the top 10. So the Texans finished their night early, but they finished it. They started with a bang, but they finished with a just a dynamic nuclear explosion with the selection of the Will Anderson selection by trading up. The Texans had to give up their pick in the 12th round plus the 33rd pick this year, and they also had to give up the first selection in the 2024 draft and the third round selection in the 2024 draft. So, all I can tell you, folks, is that I am as a journalist, you try to stay objective, but as a fan, I'm elated. Now, neither one of those kids have had put on a uniform for the Texans yet. It's like Nick Casario said, they got to come in here and earn their right. But the fact that you got the Texans are building upon the goodwill, the fact that when they hired D'Amico Ryans and he's in here now, and all of a sudden now you have the you come in with these two selections, CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, and I know you've heard all the consternation about when what all that aside, in fact, I saw a mock draft earlier this morning that had Will Levis in that selection, and I stated earlier on the Real Deal Sports Show about that. I thought the CJ Stroud would be the second player picked, the quarterback that they needed, the quarterback that they had to have, and I also mentioned just this past week on Folks Talking Sports on the Houston Roundball YouTube channel that I thought that CJ Stroud was going to be the quarterback, and couldn't be anybody else but CJ Stroud, particularly when Bryce Young was number one to Carolina. So there was no ifs, ands, and buts as far as I was concerned. Yeah, we had all the prognostications and just folks blowing wind, blowing smoke, and everything else because you had time to feel. But in my mind, with everything else, what I had looked at, and just going back, and I'm not by no means am I a nuclear physicist when it come down to the draft selection. It's like Nick Casario said earlier today. It's a 50-50 shot. I don't care where you're selecting it. You should have a 50-50 shot. So in this case, that being the case, we just hope it's not a 50-50 shot between CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. We hope it is a 100% shot, because I think these two quality players and these are two quality individuals, character-wise and everything else. But, don't let me talk about it. We're going to let give Nick Casario in his opening statement talking about what they were able to pull off.
As I alluded to in the pre-draft press conference, I would say it was a collective effort throughout the course of the draft process. There's certainly a lot that goes into this from a lot of different people. I'm certainly appreciative and thankful for the help and the assistance of the people that are involved. Everybody has input, everybody has a say. The decisions that we make, we've talked about from the beginning, we try to do what feels in the best interest of the organization. And we kind of ended up with the result that we had here this evening. I would say, we had talks leading up to the draft with some different folks about potentially moving up. We thought this could be a possibility. I think all along we were prepared to pick at 2. More than likely, we knew we were going to pick at 2. And then whether or not we could move from 12 to wherever it was, were contingent upon a number of different factors. Good working relationship with Monty, the Arizona organization. So there was dialogue, I would say, over the last handful of days about maybe some general thoughts and parameters about whether or not this is something we were interested in doing. And then D'Amico and I, just can't say enough about his involvement, communication. He and I talk regularly about different scenarios. If we do this, here's what could happen. Okay, here's another option. If we do this, okay, and if I have to pick at this spot, here are some of the players that would be considerations or factors. So it was a team effort. I think this is an organizational effort. We've said from the beginning, this isn't about one person. It's not going to be about one individual. It's just trying to put together the best team collectively as much as possible. And I think the 2 players that we selected this evening are certainly emblematic of that. We'll have an opportunity to visit with them a little bit more in depth tomorrow when they're here. But certainly excited about adding Will and CJ to the roster. So that I'll take.
Yeah, folks, that was General Manager Nick Casario in his opening statement. I think pretty well, he tried to capitalize the surroundings, particularly, and again, I'm going back to the Will Anderson, the trade up from 12 to 3 to get Will Anderson. He alluded to it, what they had already had conversations with with the I'm sorry to say St. Louis Cardinals. Showing you how old I am, the Phoenix Cardinals. But that the what ifs, the what ifs and all had already, the parameters had already been laid out. And just to show you how quickly things move, I think it was a matter of about maybe they probably, in order to have been able to go through the dynamics and being able to make a trade like this happen, to trade up, everything has to go through New York, has to go through the league office, and everything has to be certified and ratified by way of the league office and what you're going to do, what you're giving up, and they had to verify everything. And the Texans had roughly, and if I remember roughly, maybe about a minute and a half at best to once all is said and done to get the card up there and say, this is what we're getting ready to do. So obviously right after they had made the selection of CJ Stroud, the wheels were already in motion, but they really jump started and with the hyper speed and trying to get the trade up from 12 to 3 with the Phoenix Cardinals in order to be able to get to make the trade up to get Will Anderson. So hey, folks, yeah, great day starting for the Houston Texans. Yeah, it's still a building process. After the past 3 seasons, with what you want to total maybe 11 games in the last 3 seasons, give or take, and all of a sudden now, so it's still a building process. This is still where we are, and I think that in this case, you got the you got to tip your hat to the Texans today. Now, this is not the end of it. I think this is more or less the beginning of it, because the true essence of what, and I know everybody is just totally ecstatic right now about these 2 picks. But to me, the meat of the draft is to show you the character of the scouting staff, as far as the Houston Texans are concerned, and as far as I'm concerned, is to be let's see what they're gonna come up with the twos, a couple twos. I think they got 1, 2, a couple threes, and so forth for tomorrow and then the next day, because the meat of the depth of the team is going to be built. Now, there's going to be some sleepers coming in. It's going to be some guys that's not going to even be drafted, but from a free agent standpoint. And Tony M, I agree with you. You would say you was nervous as H, but they surprised you. I tell you what, they surprised a lot of folks. Make no mistake about it. The Texans surprised a lot of folks, and but you know what? Pleasantly surprised. This was a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad to see. I'm glad they showed the stones to do it. I'm glad they brought. They showed something. Stones the size of Texas, and they went out there and done something. So I think you see the flavor, you see the dynamics. I see the fact that you starting to see the footprint, the handprint of D'Amico Ryans is putting his stamp on this, because I remember D'Amico when in his opening press conference, how he mentioned when he was at San Francisco, how he wanted a defensive player in the draft when he was out there, but he acquiesced to bringing on another offensive player. Well, I think in this case they got the offensive player at number 2, and they got the defensive player, emblematic of who D'Amico Ryans in the essence of D'Amico Ryans. And it just so happens Will Anderson, like D'Amico Ryans, an Alabama product. And so, tip your hat to him. So I tell you what, folks, I'm going to give it a wrap here. I appreciate it. I know I jumped in here. Some of y'all are probably still in the bed. I tell you what, if you have not subscribed to the AdMax Corner YouTube channel, please do so. Pass the word. And if you have not gone out to the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel, if you have not subscribed there, please do subscribe to both of them. Hey, this is you want to go with some true, authentic, local, from a local name, but a global perspective. We bring a global perspective to what's going on in the world of sports, and particularly from my essence, my time, and just having covered the NFL and so forth. So, hey, I'm great. I'm happy with it. And hey, good night to you, Tony M. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to me. And anybody else out there, pass the word. Probably be back probably Saturday. I know we got other things. The draft will continue through Saturday. But, as we get ready to wrap this one now, and I'm getting ready to get out of the NRG state, this big cavernous place is, you just had the big concert here, and for 3-day concert here, just had the rodeo here. I just was here for the Final Four. So if only the ghosts could talk about the things that goes on when this place is finally quiet. But anyway, without further ado, this is your man, Adolphus A.D. Moore, signing off from NRG Stadium, as the Houston Texans not only got as far as I'm concerned, they got the man in the second round in CJ Stroud, but they shocked the world, and they shocked a lot of us when they turned around and traded back up to get the third pick in the draft and come in with Will Anderson out of Alabama. So we got an offensive player, we got a defensive player. Now we just got to start adding people around it and getting out. So without further ado, I'm done. I'm out. Ciao. Peace. Hey, Folks, be careful out there. Let's not turn on one another. Let's look at each other and show our humanity with one another. We done. I'm gone. Out.